The night had fallen hard over rural Montana, the kind of night where even the stars hid behind thick clouds. The wind howled through the frozen fields, slamming snow against the windows of a small wooden farmhouse that stood alone at the edge of the woods. Inside, Eleanor Ellie Harris, a 72-year-old widow, sat quietly beside her old wood stove, knitting by the faint orange glow of the fire. The only sounds in the room were the ticking of the wall clock and the crackling of the burning logs. Her husband, Harold, had passed away 5 winters ago. Since then, Ellie had lived alone with her cat, Muffin, and the memories of a life once full of laughter. The radio played softly in the background, warning drivers to stay off the icy roads as a blizzard swept across the state. Ellie poured herself a cup of tea and smiled faintly. "Just another cold Montana night," she whispered to herself. But around midnight, something unusual broke through the storm. A low, distant rumble. At first Ellie thought it was thunder. Then it grew louder and steadier, the sound of engines. She frowned, standing up and peering through the frosted window. Out of the swirling snow she saw headlights, dozens of them, moving slowly up her long, snow-covered driveway. Her heart pounded. "Lord help me," she murmured. The glow of the lights grew brighter until 20 motorcycles appeared, their riders bundled in leather, faces hidden beneath helmets covered in frost. The sight was both terrifying and strange. No one ever came this far out during a storm. One of the riders, a tall, broad man with tattoos across his neck, stepped off his bike and trudged through the snow toward her porch. He knocked firmly on the door. Ellie hesitated but finally cracked it open. "Ma'am," the man said, his voice low but respectful, "we're sorry to bother you. The storm caught us off guard. Our bikes froze up. We just need a place to warm up, maybe dry our gloves. We'll be gone by morning." Ellie's instincts told her to lock the door. She had heard stories about biker gangs, wild, dangerous men who caused trouble wherever they went. But when she looked into the man's eyes, she didn't see danger. She saw exhaustion, cold, humanity. "Well," she sighed, "I suppose the Lord wouldn't want me turning away freezing men. Wipe your boots before you come in." The bikers exchanged surprised looks. Within minutes they were inside, huddled near the fire, thawing their hands. Ellie brewed hot coffee and ladled out bowls of soup she had made earlier. A young rider asked quietly, "Ma'am, why'd you let us in?" "Most folks wouldn't," Ellie smiled softly. "Because nobody deserves to freeze to death on my porch. Not tonight." The men sat in silence, humbled. That stormy night, inside a widow's small farmhouse, kindness melted fear. And a story began that the world would never forget. The next morning, the Montana sky was painted in shades of pale gold and silver. The storm finally broken. Eleanor Ellie Harris awoke early, the smell of coffee and wood smoke filling her cozy farmhouse. The 20 bikers she had sheltered the night before were already up, helping her shovel the heavy snow off her porch and stack firewood by her shed. She stood by the window watching them, big, rough men who just hours ago looked like trouble, now laughing and working like neighbors. When she stepped outside with a tray of steaming biscuits, their leader, the tall tattooed man known as Tank, smiled warmly. "Morning, ma'am," he said, tipping his cap. "We owe you for saving our hides last night." Ellie chuckled. "You owe me nothing, son. I just did what any decent person would." Tank shook his head. "Not many decent people left like you, ma'am." After breakfast, the bikers packed up their gear. The storm had passed, and the engines roared to life one by one. Before leaving, Tank approached her with a leather glove extended. Inside it was a folded $100 bill. "I can't take this," Ellie said quickly. "Then don't think of it as payment," Tank replied. "Think of it as a thank you, from 20 men who won't forget the night you opened your door." She smiled and tucked it into his glove, handing it back. "You boys just stay warm and stay out of trouble. That'll be thanks enough." They laughed, shook her hand, and one by one disappeared down the long, snowy road. When the last rumble faded, Ellie returned inside, thinking the adventure was over. But the universe had other plans. 2 mornings later, she woke to an even louder sound, a low, thunderous vibration that made her windows tremble. At first she thought it was a storm returning, but when she opened her front door, her breath caught in her throat. Stretching down her entire road were hundreds, no thousands, of motorcycles. The air shimmered with heat from their engines, chrome gleaming in the sunlight. Bikers filled the fields, the ditches, the highway itself. The roar of their engines was deafening, powerful, and strangely beautiful. And at the front stood Tank, grinning proudly. "Morning, ma'am," he called over the noise. "Told you we wouldn't forget." Ellie stepped off her porch, stunned. "What is all this?" "The boys spread the word," Tank explained. "You took in 20 of ours that night. The Hells Angels don't forget kindness, so we came to return it." One by one, bikers began unloading supplies, firewood, groceries, warm clothes, even a new generator. Some repaired her fence, others cleaned her yard. Ellie's eyes welled up with tears as she watched strangers, men feared by most, serving her with gratitude and respect. Tank placed his leather jacket over her shoulders and said softly, "You helped us when nobody else would. From now on, you're family." As hundreds of engines revved in salute, Ellie's tears froze in the cold wind. For the first time since her husband's passing, she didn't feel alone. The roar that once frightened her had become the sound of gratitude, loyalty, and love, the roar of 1,000 angels. By afternoon, Ellie's quiet farmhouse had turned into a sight that drew people from miles away. Neighbors peeked from their cars, reporters arrived with cameras, and soon, news stations across America were broadcasting the incredible story. Elderly widow shelters. 20. Freezing bikers. Wakes up to $1,000. Hell's Angels at her door. Ellie became an instant symbol of kindness. Reporters surrounded her, asking why she did it. Her answer was simple. Because kindness costs nothing, but it can save a life. Tank and his crew stood proudly behind her, ensuring no one bothered her too much. They even formed a line of bikes along her driveway, their version of a protective wall. Donations began pouring in. Local stores sent food, a construction company repaired her roof for free, and someone even gifted her a new heating system. Ellie smiled shyly through the attention, but remained humble. One reporter asked, "Do you regret opening your door that night?" She chuckled. "Not for a second. I opened my door to strangers, and God sent me family." That night, as the engines faded once again, Ellie stood on her porch, hands clasped, whispering, "Thank you, Lord, for sending me my angels."